For 11 years now, mostly OTR for a mid-size freight company out of Joplin. And if you asked anybody who knows me, they'd tell you I'm about the least jumpy person in the world. My ex used to get annoyed because horror movies didn't do anything for me. I've slept in my truck in some genuinely rough parking lots where a guy got his catalytic converter stolen 40 feet from my bumper, and I slept through the whole thing. None of that ever bothered me. I say that up front because what happened outside Amarillo isn't something I can explain away with I was tired or trucker brain. It was a Tuesday in late September, hauling a dry van load of industrial fans from Dallas up to a distribution center in Denver. Nothing special about the run. I'd done that lane a dozen times. I was pulling a full 70-hour week trying to get home for my daughter's birthday that weekend, so I was pushing my hours a little harder than I liked to. By the time I hit my 11-hour limit, I was about 40 minutes past Amarillo, running low on options, and I pulled into a truck stop I'd used before. A big lot off I-40 with a diesel island, a subway inside, and maybe 60, 70 spots for trucks around the back. I got there around 9:15 at night, backed into a spot near the fence line because the good rows closer to the building were already full. That's just how it goes if you're not one of the first ones in for the night. I did my usual routine, walked the truck, checked the tires, grabbed a chicken sandwich and a Gatorade from inside, texted my daughter goodnight, and climbed into the sleeper around 10. I've got a pretty good setup back there. Mini fridge, a fan since the APU doesn't always keep up. Curtains I actually like because my ex picked them out before she was my ex. I put on a podcast, some true crime thing I only half listen to most nights, and I was out within maybe 20 minutes. I sleep like garbage most nights on the road, so falling asleep fast isn't unusual for me. What woke me up was 3 knocks on the driver's side door, right below the window. Not on the trailer, not on the hood, right on the door, about where somebody standing on the ground would knock if they were tall enough or if they'd stepped up on the fuel tank step. I looked at my phone, 3:47 a.m. My first thought, honest to God, was that it was a lot lizard. It happens. You get a knock, you say no thanks, they move on to the next truck. So I didn't even sit up all the way. I said, loud enough to carry through the door, the not interested, have a good night, and laid back down. Nothing. No footsteps walking away, no muttering, no okay, sorry, just quiet. I figured maybe they'd already left before I even said anything, that I was slow waking up, and by the time I spoke, they were gone. I closed my eyes again, then 3 more knocks. Same spot, same rhythm. Not frantic, not aggressive, almost polite, like someone patiently trying again. That's the part that got under my skin more than anything else that whole night, if I'm honest. It wasn't a bang, it was a knock, like they were at somebody's front door. I sat up that time and pulled the curtain back maybe an inch. My lot lights were decent that night, orange sodium lamps every few rows, and I could see the gap between my truck and the reefer parked next to me pretty clear. Nobody there. I looked toward the front of the truck through the windshield gap in the curtain. Empty. I told myself it was a couple lanes over, sound carrying weird the way it does in a lot full of idling engines, and I almost believed it. I want to be clear, I wasn't scared yet at that point. Annoyed, mostly. I've got maybe 6 hours before I need to be moving again to make my appointment, and I don't need this. I laid back down, put one earbud back in, and tried to get back to sleep. About 15 minutes later, I checked. It was 4:03. I heard footsteps. Not near my truck this time. Further off, like somebody walking the row behind mine, between the trailers. Truck stops aren't silent at 4 in the morning. There's always somebody up, walking to the bathroom, another driver doing a pre-trip early. I told myself that's all it was. I didn't get up to check. I'll admit that now, looking back, maybe I should have, but at the time, getting out of a warm sleeper at 4 a.m. to go investigate a noise felt like the last thing I wanted to do, and every part of my brain was telling me it was nothing. I did finally fall back asleep, and when my alarm went off at 6:30, I did my normal morning, brushed my teeth with a water bottle, did a walk around before pulling out, and that's when I saw it. On the fuel tank step on the driver's side, right below where I'd heard the knocking, there was a boot print. Not a smudge, not just dirt kicked up, a clear, pressed-in boot print in the light coat of dust that had settled overnight, like somebody had stood there for a while shifting their weight. My own boots don't leave a print like that. I checked, held mine up next to it out of some dumb impulse, and it didn't match. Bigger than mine, and a different tread pattern entirely. I called my dispatcher, a guy named Randy I've worked with for years, mostly just to vent about it because I needed to say it out loud to somebody. He laughed it off a little, said probably some other driver messing around or somebody looking to see if I had my window cracked so they could grab something out of the cab. That's a real thing that happens, theft from cabs at truck stops, so it made sense. I told myself that was it. Somebody testing whether I was an easy target, and when I told them no through the door, they left. I put it out of my head best I could and finished the run to Denver, dropped the load, picked up a new one, heading back down through New Mexico. I didn't think about it again for almost 2 weeks. The second time was at a completely different truck stop, a Pilot off I-25 outside Las Cruces, a run I don't do often, maybe twice a year. Different state, different lot, no reason for it to be connected to anything. I backed in around 8 that night, had dinner, called my daughter, went to sleep around 11, watching the same true crime podcast play through my phone. 3:47 a.m., 3 knocks. I want to tell you I stayed calm and rational about this, but the second that clock hit those same digits, something in my chest went cold in a way it hadn't the first time. Same rhythm of knock, same spot on the door. I didn't say anything that time. I just laid there completely still, listening, my heart going in my ears loud enough I thought whoever was outside could probably hear it too. 3 more knocks, a pause, like before, then nothing for a long stretch. I checked my phone twice more that night and didn't sleep again until close to 5. In the morning, another boot print. Same tread pattern as I remembered it, though I hadn't taken a picture the first time, which I regret more than almost anything else about this whole thing, because now all I have is my memory telling me it matched. I called Randy again, and this time I didn't laugh it off with him. I told him the exact time both nights, and he got quiet for a second before he said something like, "Dale, that's a weird coincidence, man," which is not what you want your dispatcher to say when you're already spooked. I asked around at that stop, talked to a couple other drivers over coffee inside, asked if anybody'd had somebody messing with their trucks overnight. Nobody had anything to report, but one older guy, been driving longer than I've been alive practically, told me he'd heard something a long time ago about certain rest stops along that corridor. Said truckers used to call it something, but couldn't remember what, and he wasn't the type to make things up for fun. I didn't push him on it. Some part of me didn't want the details. Third time was 3 weeks after that, and by then I wasn't sleeping right most nights, regardless of where I parked, just from the anticipation of it. This one was outside Flagstaff, another totally different lot, another route I run maybe once a quarter. I told myself out loud in the cab that if it happened again, I was going to actually open the door and look. I don't know why I thought that was the brave move instead of the stupid one, but by that point I think I needed to know more than I was scared of finding out. 3:47, 3 knocks. I grabbed my phone, thumbed the flashlight on, and threw the door open so fast it banged against the stop. Cold air, empty lot, the hum of a dozen idling reefer units and nothing else. No footsteps retreating, no shape ducking behind a trailer. I stood there on the step for probably a full minute in just a t-shirt, freezing, scanning every row I could see, and there was nobody. I climbed back down and checked the ground around the truck with my flashlight, and that's when I found it wasn't just a boot print that time. There were 3 sets, overlapping, like whoever it was had been standing there on more than one occasion, close together, in almost exactly the same footprint, like they'd been coming back to that same spot. I didn't drive again that night. I called Randy at 5 in the morning and told him I needed to swap the run, that I wasn't in a state to be behind the wheel, and to his credit, he didn't argue with me. I sat in a booth inside that Flagstaff truck stop until the sun came up, drinking bad coffee, going through my dash cam footage from all 3 nights on my phone. The dash cam faces forward through the windshield, not down at the step, so it never caught anything directly. But on the Flagstaff footage at 3:46 a.m., 1 minute before the knocking started, you can see a shape cross in front of the truck at the very edge of the frame. Low light, grainy, gone in less than a second. Could be a person, could be a shadow from another truck's lights moving. I've watched it probably 200 times since, and I still can't tell you for sure which. I filed a report with the truck stop security office in Flagstaff, more to have it on record than because I expected anything to come of it, and the guy there told me they'd had a couple other drivers mention something similar over the past year or so. Always around that same time, always the same description of knocking, never anybody caught on their cameras either. He said their overnight security guy quit a few months back and they hadn't replaced the position, which didn't make me feel better. It's been 4 months now. I still drive. Obviously, this is my living, but I don't sleep the same way anymore. I've got a motion light I mounted myself on the driver's side mirror, and I check my phone the second I wake up for any reason at all. My name's Marcus, I'm 41, and I run a dedicated lane, same route every week, has been for going on 6 years now, hauling produce out of a cold storage facility in Salinas up through the Central Valley and over into Nevada, dropping at a distribution hub outside Reno. I like dedicated runs. Same roads, same way stations, same truck stops, same faces. There's a comfort to it that a lot of drivers who bounce around the country don't get to have. My wife likes it too, because I'm predictable. She always knows within an hour or two where I am on any given day of the week. Because I run run the same route constantly. I notice things other drivers wouldn't. I know which way stations tend to be backed up on Thursdays. I know the guy who runs the taco truck outside the Fernley Scale House by name. And because I know the route so well, I noticed the truck. It was a white reefer trailer, no visible company markings, which isn't crazy on its own. Plenty of independent owner-operators or leasing outfits run blank trailers. What caught my attention the first time was that it had no license plate, not a missing plate where you can see the mounting holes and a shadow of where one used to be, just a blank spot like it had never had one, or like whoever owned it didn't care to bother. I noticed it parked at a rest area outside Fernley one Tuesday morning around 6 a.m. Cab dark, no driver visible, nobody around it. I didn't think much of it. Trucking's a big world, and I see 1,000 rigs a month. I mentioned it once to another regular on my route, a guy named Vic who runs a similar lane for a different company, just as small talk over coffee. You ever notice that blank white reefer out at Fernley? He said he hadn't, but he doesn't always stop there, so that didn't mean anything either. 2 weeks later, I saw it again. Same rest area, same spot, same time of morning, cab still dark. That's where it started to feel less like coincidence, because rest areas don't usually have regulars the way truck stops do. Most drivers hit a rest area once, use the bathroom, maybe nap 30 minutes, and move on. Seeing the exact same unmarked trailer parked in the exact same spot 2 weeks apart at the exact same hour on a route I only run once a week myself felt like too specific a coincidence for my taste. I got out that time and walked past it slower than I needed to, trying to look casual. No sound from the reefer unit. It wasn't even running, which for a reefer trailer sitting in September heat is strange in itself because whatever's inside would be cooking without the unit on. No lights in the cab, curtains drawn. I let it go again. I've got a job to do, an appointment window to hit, and I'm not in the business of investigating strangers' trucks. But from that point on, I started half watching for it without meaning to. Third sighting was a month after the first, and this time it wasn't at Fernley. It was at a truck stop about 90 miles further down my route outside Winnemucca, more of a through point than a regular spot. Same white reefer, same absent plate. This time it was running. I could hear the compressor going, but I still never saw a driver, not going in for food, not doing a walk around, nothing. I was there almost 40 minutes getting fuel and grabbing lunch, and in that whole time, nobody so much as touched that truck. That was the point where I started asking around more directly instead of just mentioning it in passing. I asked the cashier at that Winnemucca stop if she recognized the truck, described it, white reefer, no company name. She said something that I still think about a lot, which is that she'd seen one like that before, but always assumed it belonged to whoever was driving it that day, because trucks like that come through constantly and blur together for someone who sees hundreds a week. She wasn't much help beyond that, but she also didn't seem surprised by the description, which felt worse than if she'd said she'd never seen anything like it. I started tracking it after that in a notebook I keep in my cab for load numbers and fuel receipts. Every sighting, I wrote down the date, the time, the location. Over the next 2 months, I logged it 9 times. Fernley twice more, Winnemucca 3 times, once outside a rest stop near Lovelock I don't normally even use, but happened to stop at because I was running early, and twice at a truck stop right outside Reno, close enough to my actual delivery that it made my stomach turn a little every time. It meant this thing wasn't just somewhere out on my route. It was near where I finish my day, near where I sleep before heading back. My wife noticed I was off during this stretch. I wasn't sleeping great, kept my phone camera ready anytime I pulled into a new stop, started parking further from other trucks instead of closer, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do for safety. I told her about it eventually. She did what anybody reasonable would do, which is suggest maybe I was reading too much into an ordinary truck that just happened to run a similar circuit to mine. That's possible. I know that's possible. Unmarked trailers exist. Drivers with irregular schedules exist. There are totally boring explanations for almost everything I saw. But the no plate thing kept nagging at me because that's not just unusual. That's not legal. Every single sighting over 2 months, it never had one. The last time I saw it, and I want to be precise here because this is the part that changed how I feel about the whole thing, was at Fernley again, back where it started on a Tuesday morning in November. Same time, right around 6 a.m. But this time as I pulled in, I saw the cab door open. First time in 3 months of sightings I'd ever seen that door move. I slowed my truck down more than I probably should have on approach, trying to see, and a figure climbed down out of the cab. A man, average build, dressed like any other driver, ball cap pulled low. He didn't walk toward the building. He walked directly toward my truck in the lane I was pulling into and stood there watching me pull in until I was close enough that I could see he was just staring straight at my windshield, not at anything else, not checking his own mirrors or his trailer, just at me. I didn't stop. I kept rolling past toward a different row, watching him in my side mirror the entire time, and he turned his whole body to keep facing my truck as I passed, never breaking off. By the time I parked and looked back, he was gone. Cab door shut. No sign of him anywhere in the lot. I sat in my truck for probably 10 minutes before I could make myself get out. I reported it to my dispatch, mostly to have it documented, and I switched up my route habits after that. Vary my stop times, don't hit Fernley at the same hour twice in a row anymore, which messes with my schedule more than I'd like, but feels necessary. I haven't seen the truck since that morning, not once, in almost 5 months now. I want to start by saying I've got a dog, a heeler mix named Copper, who rides with me almost every run. Company allows it, and honestly, he's better company than the radio most days. He's 5 years old, calm, doesn't much, the kind of dog other drivers comment on because he just sits in the passenger seat like he's got somewhere important to be. I run team adjacent loads sometimes, meaning I don't have a co-driver, but I pick up enclosed dry van freight that gets sealed at the shipper and isn't supposed to be opened again until delivery. High value stuff. Electronics mostly, sometimes pharma. This particular run was in early February, picking up a sealed trailer from a distribution warehouse outside Fort Worth, headed to a delivery point in Kansas City. Standard stuff. I did my pre-trip, checked the seal number, matched what was on my paperwork, verified it was intact, and headed out around 2 p.m. First sign something was different was about 3 hours into the drive, somewhere past Wichita Falls. Copper, who normally just lays across the passenger seat and sleeps most of a drive, suddenly sat bolt upright and turned his whole body around to face the back of the cab, toward the wall that separates the cab from the trailer hitch. Obviously not actually toward the trailer itself, since there's no way to see or hear through that on a setup like mine. He was locked onto that direction like something was there. He didn't bark. That's the part that still gets me. He just stared, ears up, completely rigid, for probably 4 or 5 minutes straight, and then eventually laid back down like nothing happened. I didn't think much of it at first. Dogs get weird about all kinds of things. Road noise, a rattle in the mirror bracket, who knows? But it happened again about 90 minutes later. Same posture, same direction, same silent staring instead of barking, which is what made it feel different from him just hearing a normal noise. If it was road noise or a rattle, it would have kept happening randomly the whole drive, not in these specific bursts. I stopped for fuel outside Oklahoma City around 6:30 that evening, did a walk around like always, checked the seal again, still intact, matched the paperwork, nothing visibly wrong with the trailer doors or the locking mechanism. Copper wouldn't get out to do his business near the back of the trailer the way he normally does when I let him off leash in a quiet lot. He went to the very front of the truck instead and refused to go near the rear corners at all, which for him was completely out of character. I chalked it up to him picking up on my own nerves, honestly, because by that point I was starting to feel unsettled myself without even being able to say why. I got back on the road and pushed on toward my next stop, a truck stop outside Tulsa, where I planned to take my 10-hour reset. Backed in around 9 p.m., did another check of the seal under my flashlight, still intact. I let Copper out to walk before bed, and he did the same thing. Dead set against going anywhere near the back half of the trailer, planting his feet and pulling the leash the other direction hard enough that I gave up and just walked him near the cab instead. Around midnight, lying in the sleeper, with Copper curled up next to me instead of his usual spot on the floor, I heard something from inside the trailer. Not from outside, not another driver, not wind. It was distinctly from the direction of the trailer itself. A soft shifting sound, like weight moving, like something adjusting position among the freight. I sat completely still and listened, and it happened twice more over maybe 10 minutes. Each time just a soft shift. Nothing violent, nothing like it was trying to get out or make noise on purpose. Copper's ears were up the entire time, and this time, for the first time all day, he let out one low growl, just once, and then went quiet again like he was waiting to see what I'd do. I told myself cargo shifts during transit all the time, especially electronics and cardboard packaging on a pallet. A strap can loosen, a box can settle. That's a real boring common thing, and I've heard it plenty of times on other runs. What made this different, and I keep coming back to this detail, is that the truck was parked, not moving, not braking, no reason for anything to physically shift on its own. Whatever moved without any force acting on it that I could account for. I didn't sleep much that night. Around 3 a.m., I got out with my flashlight and checked the seal one more time, walked the entire perimeter of the trailer, looked underneath it, checked every visible gap around the doors. Everything looked sealed and undisturbed. I climbed back in and just sat in the driver's seat with Copper until it got light out, not willing to go back to the sleeper that close to the trailer wall. I called my dispatcher first thing that morning, a woman named Priya, and told her what happened, more to cover myself than anything in case there was some kind of issue with the freight I needed on record. She said she'd note it, but that unless the seal was broken, there wasn't much anyone could do. A sealed load can't legally be opened opened before delivery without authorization. Seal integrity is actually a serious thing in this business. Breaking one without cause can get you in real trouble with the shipper and the carrier both. So I was stuck driving 4 more hours to Kansas City with whatever this was, unable to check for myself. That drive was the longest 4 hours of my life. Copper wouldn't settle the entire way, kept doing that rigid stare and listen thing every 20 or 30 minutes. I didn't hear the shifting sound again while moving. Makes sense. Road noise probably would have buried it anyway. But every time I stopped, even just at a red light coming through a small town, Copper's ears would go up again like he was tracking it, continuing to move. We got to the delivery point in Kansas City around 1 p.m. I told the receiving dock supervisor immediately before they even started unloading that something felt wrong with this load and that my dog had been reacting to it the entire trip. He didn't seem to take it too seriously at first. I don't blame him. It's not exactly standard paperwork, but he did have his guys open the doors carefully instead of just yanking them open the way they usually do. There was a man inside, toward the back, wedged between 2 pallets, conscious, dehydrated, disoriented. Later, from what the dock supervisor told me, after police got involved, it came out that he'd apparently gotten into the trailer sometime before it was sealed at the shipper's warehouse. How exactly, nobody explained to me. Whether it was a gap in their security or something else was never something I got a clear answer on. He didn't have any ID on him that matched anything, gave inconsistent answers to the police about who he was or why he was in there, and from what I understand, he was taken by ambulance for a medical evaluation, then an arrest, though I don't know what happened to him after that. Nobody ever followed up with me about it beyond an initial statement. What still gets me isn't even that part, as strange as it is. Trailer stowaways happen, rare but not unheard of. There's a rational explanation on the surface. What gets me is that he would have had to have been in there completely silent and still through my entire pre-trip inspection, through the drive, through both times I walked the perimeter with a flashlight at night, close enough that Copper could sense him from the cab and never once made a sound loud enough for me to hear directly, only felt as that occasional soft shifting. 4 or 5 hours he was reportedly in there before we even picked up, and God knows how much longer total by the time we got to Kansas City. I don't know how somebody survives that long, that quietly, in a sealed trailer without making themselves known, unless they specifically didn't want to be found yet. I still run sealed loads. It's a big part of the job and I can't avoid it. But I check that seal now more times than I probably need to, and I let Copper walk the whole perimeter with me before I ever climb into the sleeper. And if he won't go near the back of a trailer, I don't sleep that night. Full stop. I'll drive to another stop if I have to. Priya thinks I've gotten a little paranoid about it. Maybe I have, but Copper's never once been wrong about something bothering him before that trip.